Hi, my name is Bianca Jackson, and I had the honor of meeting with the Chief Philanthropy Officer for a local school and community center to discuss some of the leadership issues that they were facing. After meeting with her, I found out that they face issues that a lot of nonprofit organizations face, and that is, how do you do more with less? How do you perform the tasks that you need to for your organization with the fewest amount of resources? After discussing this with her, we decided that the book that would be most influential would be, and instrumental, would be the book that's titled Multipliers: How the Best Leaders Make Everyone Smarter. I was particularly excited to be a part of, or to realize that this would be the book that would work for us, because the co-author, Greg McCune, is actually someone that I saw speak in Dallas not too long ago. He wrote a book called Essentialism, which essentially talks about how to do more with less. And so I was really intrigued about reading Multipliers and being able to share some input with this local school and community center, because I knew how influential Essentialism had been for me. And I found that Multipliers was just as important and hopefully will help the leaders of this organization as they try to do more with less as well. The main premise of this book really looks at the differences between a multiplier and a diminisher. These are two leadership styles that are at play in the workforce all the time that create very different results. And so for you, I have a question this afternoon. If you have ever felt empowered, engaged, or enthusiastic, has anyone ever felt that way about their jobs? Well, it's likely that you were under the influence and leadership of a multiplier. If, on the other hand, you have felt stifled, stressed, or even sabotaged, chances are you were under the influence of or the leadership of a diminisher. There are differing mindsets between multipliers and diminishers that we are going to discuss. Diminishers believe that people aren't ever going to figure anything out without them. They always have to be involved. Their methods are very self-serving. They believe that they hold everything together. No one's going to do anything without them. Multipliers, on the other hand, see that people are smart. People can make decisions and people will figure it out. And they treat you differently based on those different mindsets. So you may be sitting in this room wondering, well, what am I? Am I a multiplier or am I a diminisher? And that is a very good question that I'm going to be able to help you answer. There are really 5 ways that we can examine your style to see if you are operating as a multiplier or a diminisher. And the first is regarding how you handle talent. The people that come into your organization, the people that you work with, do you use them to get what you want or to accomplish your goals? If you do, you would be a diminisher. Or you develop them. Do you find out what's important to them, how they can accomplish their goals? If so, you're a multiplier. When it comes to mistakes, diminishers blame others. They blame others. If I had done it myself, it would have been done correctly. They can't get it together, so they blame others for their mistakes. Multipliers, on the other hand, use it as an opportunity to explore different options. What can we do better next time? What went wrong? How can we improve it? When it comes to setting direction, diminishers tell you what to do. Multipliers, on the other hand, challenge you. They ask questions and they allow their employees to come to a decision. When it comes to making decisions, diminishers are going to decide for you. Once again, multipliers are going to consult, they're going to engage, they're going to debate, and really have an open forum before making a decision. And finally, when it comes to getting things done, diminishers want to control everything from start to finish. They are micromanagers. We're going to talk about that in a second. And multipliers, on the other hand, support their employees to making their own decisions, to getting things done on their own. So you can see that there are different mindsets between diminishers and multipliers. And I'm sure as you're sitting in here, you probably know or have worked for both. Hopefully you've had the joy of working with a multiplier. And hopefully you are a multiplier. The good news is I'm going to show you some techniques from this book that will allow you to become a multiplier if you don't feel that you're operating that way yet. We're going to revisit this several times, but this just gives you an overview of the 5 different disciplines between diminishers and multipliers and how they operate. And we're going to go into this in a bit of detail. I will say that being a diminisher is hard work. It's draining, they exhaust everyone around them, they're no fun to be around, and it can't be fun to operate as one either. So we'll talk about the first one. Diminishers are empire builders. When it comes to working with talent, working with other people, they just hoard the knowledge, they stifle, they suffocate others, they're just building their self-serving empire. They're tyrants. They create tense environments. The book talks about the difference between tense and intense. An intense environment is actually positive because it's looking at your ability to rise to the occasion, but a tense environment is one where people are walking on eggshells and not able to be productive. So diminishers create tense environments. They are, of course, know-it-alls. Don't forget they operate under that premise that they have to tell everyone what to do. People can't figure anything out without them. They ignore the input of others. They are the decision makers without consulting or getting input from others. And they are micromanagers. Who doesn't know how difficult it is to work with someone who is over-involved, always looking over your shoulder, always second-guessing everything that you're doing? So diminishers, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we know what it's like to not operate the right way. I really want to spend most of our time talking about how we can become multipliers. There are 5 disciplines that are the opposite of what we discussed that multipliers engage in. And the first discipline is that they are talent magnets. The way to become a talent magnet is to seek what the authors call the native genius in everyone. We all have a native genius. It's something that we do that's as natural as breathing for us. We don't break a sweat, we don't get nervous. When you have a native genius, whether it's speaking in public or maybe you're a fantastic artist, maybe you work well with spreadsheets. If that's your native genius, you do it with no trouble, without effort, without condition. You can also be authentically excited about it because it's your second nature. And so my question to you at the school and the community center is, how differently would your organization operate if people were allowed to work in their native genius? When you're in a nonprofit organization and you're trying to do more with less, it really helps if you can let people operate in their native genius. So if you're working on a project, and this should happen regardless of what their title is. So if your executive assistant is a fantastic decorator, she has a good eye for things, then maybe when you're planning your big special event, she gets to oversee some of the decorations. She gets to operate in her native genius, and that multiplies the effect of the organization. Because as we discussed, nonprofits are often trying to do more with fewer resources. So it's important to, as a multiplier, be a talent magnet, seek the native genius in others and allow them to operate in that. The second discipline is multipliers are liberators. They allow room for error while demanding your best work at the same time. They do not create a tense environment. They create an intense environment where the expectations are high, but you also have the room to make a mistake, to own up to it, and to move on. One of the questions that the authors ask in the book is this your best work? And I want to share directly from the book because I thought this paragraph was so just impactful. And it's on the topic of demanding people's best work. It's on page 82 of the book, and it goes like this. Henry Kissinger, Secretary of State under Richard Nixon, was a master at getting people's best work. According to one story, his chief of staff once handed in a report he had written on an aspect of foreign policy. When Kissinger received the report, he asked simply, "Is this your best work?" The chief thought for a moment and, worried that his boss would think the report wasn't good enough, responded, "Mr. Kissinger, I think I can do better." So Kissinger gave the report back. 2 weeks later, the chief turned in the revised report. Kissinger kept it for a week and then sent it back with a note that said, "Are you sure this is your best work?" Realizing that something must have been missing, the chief once again rewrote the report. This time, when he handed the report to his boss, he said, "Mr. Kissinger, this is my best work." Upon hearing this, Kissinger replied, Then, this time, I will read your report. So this spoke to me because it said to me that multipliers are able to separate the experiment from the outcome. So Kissinger in this case wasn't expecting anything other than this person's best. It might not have been the perfect report. There might have been misjudgments in it if he read it, who knows. The bottom line is he read it when he knew that that person gave his best work. So if you are a liberator, you create an environment where you can demand someone's best from them, but you also give them room to make mistakes and recover from those as well. The third discipline of a multiplier is that they challenge people. Multipliers look for opportunities that cause people to stretch. You're always gonna create an environment where people have to give their best, where they know that you trust them to give their best and they're able to rise to the occasion. A challenge that came up in the book that I have for you is the authors talked about 2-year-olds and how 2-year-olds always have questions. Why? Why is this? Why is that? And so the challenge to us is, what if in your next meeting you spoke only in questions? Instead of making the decision, instead of coming up with the answer, ask the question. Challenge the people in the room, understanding as a multiplier that they are smart enough to come up with the solution. So that's my challenge to you today, is to speak only in questions for a meeting and to see where that dialogue leads. The fourth discipline, this is one of my favorites. Multipliers are debate makers. They ask the hard questions, they ask for data, and with a nonprofit organization like a school that's attached to a community center, finding hard data is so critical. In nonprofits, we're usually good at finding anecdotal data, so we can tell the best story about how little Johnny wasn't able to afford the school, and because of donor support he is now making straight A's and he's going to graduate. But we need to search for, as multipliers, we need to search for the hard data. Give me the numbers, give me the ethnic breakdown, give me the percentage of boys versus girls who are graduating from this school. Debaters, the debate maker is going to ask for the data. And this is a key point. Ask each person at the table. I remember working for an organization where I put on the internal employee fundraising program, and we were called to the CEO's office to pick the nonprofit that we would support for that year. And it was a typical CEO's office with a really long wooden table and 13 people around that table, and I'm just coming from another department to sit in on this meeting, and the CEO's with all of his VPs, and we're trying to figure out what organization we're going to support. And he looks at the end of the table and he said, "What do you think?" We debated, we talked, he asked everyone at the table to give their input, and that made such a difference. I love this quote. It says, "It's better to debate a question without settling it than it is to settle a question without debating it." And the fifth discipline of a multiplier is that they are investors. There's a great theory in the book that the authors refer to that's called, it's summarized as the give back the pen theory. So they tell a story about a team that was staying late, and lady's up at the board and she's trying to figure out the numbers, and she's just kind of going through the chart on the board, and the leader of the group, the CEO, could tell that she was struggling. And he did pop up and kind of take the pen from her and work through a little of the problem with her, but at the end of that he gave the pen back to her. And that symbolized that she was the leader. He acknowledged that she was leading the program. It symbolized that he was trusting in her to find the solution. It symbolized that he was investing in her. So multipliers don't hoard. They don't find the solutions on their own. They engage people around the room and give the pen back. So symbolically, I encourage you in your meetings, in your interactions with people on the team, to make sure you give the pen back to the leader symbolically, so that they know that they're in charge and that they feel that they're invested in the decision. This is a great quote. It says, "If you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood, divide the work and give orders. Instead, Teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. So you're creating an environment where people feel that they are invested in the solution instead of you just telling them what to do. So I hope that this was very helpful. I hope that people find value in becoming a multiplier. I do want to summarize the multiplier effect, which was basically the whole point of the book. And it says this, that diminishers as leaders actually only bring about 50%, they only get about 50% of results from other people. Multipliers, on the other hand, get twice what people think that they are capable of. So in essence, under the influence of a diminisher, the organization pays full price for a resource, but only receives about 50% of its value. If your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and to become more, you are a leader. And my question to you is, what type of leader will you be?